Hello Moto GP enthusiasts. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Ducati Lenovo Team Director Davide Tardozzi offered a candid and celebratory assessment of Marc Márquez's weekend at Balaton Park, a Grand Prix that carried historic weight for both rider and manufacturer. While praising the Spaniard's extraordinary performance, Tardozzi reminded everyone that Márquez remains on a recovery path, and that the team's priority is to rebuild his physical condition step by step. The weekend was not only about sporting success but also about symbolism, resilience, and the unique mentality Márquez brings to Ducati. Massimo Rivola, Aprilia Racing's sporting director, delivered a blunt assessment after the chaotic first corner crash at Balaton Park that involved Jorge Martín and several teammates. He prioritized rider welfare, criticized the error, and called for measured discussion on safety while stressing the sporting cost to Aprilia. Jack Miller pointed the finger at start devices after Jorge Martín's first corner crash at Balaton Park, arguing the launch aids create an unnatural, unstable maneuver that contributed to the multi-bike pileup. His comments add a technical dimension to the safety debate already sparked by the slippery new asphalt and the tight entry to Turn 1, and they highlight a growing divide between riders and manufacturers over how far technology should shape the dynamics of Moto GP racing. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for Moto GP news update. Balaton Park became the stage for a triple milestone: Márquez's 100th career victory, Ducati's 100th MotoGP win, and the brand's centenary year. For Tardozzi, this convergence elevated the result beyond the usual celebrations, embedding it into Ducati's legacy. 100 is an important number. Achievements like these resonate deeply within a factory team. They validate years of engineering investment, rider recruitment, and strategic planning, while also energizing staff across Ducati's racing and production divisions. For Márquez, the number 100 is a reminder of his longevity and adaptability in a sport that constantly evolves. Even within Ducati's own garage, Márquez's dominance at Balaton was unexpected. Tardozzi admitted that while they anticipated competitiveness, they did not foresee pole position, track records, and double victories in such commanding fashion. To dominate like this, no, I didn't expect it. This underscores the unpredictability of MotoGP. A rider returning from surgery can suddenly deliver a weekend of brilliance when circuit layout, tire choice, and mental clarity align. Yet, as Tardozzi cautioned, one exceptional weekend does not erase the need for careful recovery management. Tardozzi highlighted Márquez's defining trait: absolute self-belief. Unlike riders who need reassurance, Márquez arrives convinced of his ability, and that conviction permeates the garage. His presence, humor, and timing in communication lift morale and sharpen focus. He knows it, absolute conviction in himself. This kind of leadership is rare. Márquez's ability to inspire confidence without external validation changes the dynamic of Ducati's operations. Engineers and teammates feed off his certainty, creating a culture where belief precedes performance. Despite the victories, Tardozzi was clear: Márquez is not yet at 100%. The nerve release surgery was only the first step. Now comes the harder phase of rebuilding muscular endurance and ensuring repeatability across demanding circuits. The team's focus is on protecting his workload and avoiding setbacks. We know that the most important thing is for him to return to 100%. MotoGP recovery is complex. Riders often return to competition before full fitness, balancing rehabilitation with the demands of racing. Ducati's challenge is to manage Márquez's ambition while ensuring his body can sustain the intensity of a full season. Tardozzi praised the collaborative spirit within Ducati, noting the constructive relationship between Márquez and Bagnaia. He emphasized that meetings are enriched by their combined input, and that Bagnaia's growth alongside Márquez strengthens the project. For Tardozzi, Márquez's resilience is a model for the team's mentality. We are very pleased with his mental attitude. He never gives up. Internal cohesion is often overlooked but vital. A united garage accelerates development, reduces friction, and helps riders adapt to evolving technical packages. Márquez's refusal to surrender, even when physically compromised, sets the tone for Ducati's broader campaign. Balaton Park was both symbolic and strategic. A weekend that showcased Márquez's enduring class, Ducati's engineering depth, and the resilience of a rider still on the comeback trail. For Ducati, the message is clear: protect Márquez's recovery, prioritize physiotherapy, and treat each strong weekend as a controlled test rather than a signal to launch an all-out title assault. The milestones achieved at Balaton will be remembered, but the true measure of success will be whether Ducati can sustain this momentum while guiding Márquez back to full strength. Rivola opened by underlining the relief that no fractures were reported after the pile-up. He described contusions and bruising among the riders as the only tangible damage and made clear that checking on the injured teammates was his first concern. The only positive thing is that there are no fractures. Rapid medical clearance reduces long-term impact, but even soft tissue injuries can affect braking strength and confidence in the next rounds. Rivola did not mince words. He placed full responsibility on Jorge Martín for the incident, calling the mistake 100% Martín's and saying it was unbecoming of a world champion. He criticized the braking choice on a narrow, low-grip entry as the proximate cause. Jorge made a mistake that is unbecoming of a world champion. Publicly attributing blame to a team rider is rare and signals both frustration and a demand for accountability within the squad. The crash deprived Aprilia of potential strong results from riders like Marco Bezzecchi and Raul Fernandez, who Rivola believed had the pace for a solid finish. He lamented the lost opportunity and the emotional toll on the team, while insisting the incident was a one-off rather than a sign of internal discord. Marco could have had a fantastic race, and so could Raul. Beyond physical repairs, teams must manage morale and rebuild trust after incidents that remove multiple contenders from a race. Rivola acknowledged the first corner's narrowness and low grip as contributing factors and said Aprilia will discuss safety improvements, but cautioned against overreaction. He favored proper testing and measured changes rather than hasty fixes. We will talk to understand how to improve safety. We have to do things properly, by conducting tests. Safety debates often follow dramatic first-lap incidents. Organizers, FIM and teams typically balance immediate tweaks with longer-term homologation work. Rivola confirmed Martín apologized to the affected riders and teams. Sporting authorities issued Martín a double long-lap penalty to be served at Brno, which will complicate his next race strategy. Rivola urged riders to approach the first corner more calmly in future starts. I offer my sincerest apologies to all the riders involved. The penalty enforces accountability while allowing Martín to continue competing. Brno will test whether the incident prompts cleaner starts and better risk management. Aprilia's immediate focus is recovery and repair, medical clearance for riders, bike rebuilds, and restoring team momentum. Rivola's public critique signals internal pressure for cleaner racecraft from Martín and a desire to avoid repeat incidents. The next rounds will show whether the team channels frustration into sharper discipline and whether organizers respond with targeted safety measures at high-risk corners. Miller believes the crash was caused by the interaction between launch devices and tricky track conditions, not solely by rider error. He called for removing the devices to level the field and reduce first-lap risk. Take them off, everybody's at the same level. The claim reframes a sporting incident as a technical safety issue, shifting part of the responsibility from individual judgment to equipment and track preparation. It also challenges the assumption that technological aids always improve racing. In this case, Miller argues they distort natural rider control and increase danger. Riding just behind the incident, Miller described Martín's bike jumping while trying to disengage the device under heavy braking. He argued that the devices force riders into an unnatural transfer of load at the start, which is amplified on a slippery, newly laid surface. When it starts jumping, it's difficult to make it stop. The devices lower the front suspension to reduce wheelies and maximize acceleration, but disengaging them requires precise timing and stability. On a greasy surface, the sudden release of load can destabilize the bike, leaving riders vulnerable in the crowded melee of Turn 1. Miller's account suggests that the technology itself, rather than rider misjudgment, triggered the instability that cascaded into a crash. Miller also criticized the late resurfacing at Turn 1, saying asphalt needs time to bed in and that riders were not properly informed about the work. He acknowledged the rest of the circuit was acceptable but warned that fresh tarmac and high start speeds are a risky mix. Newly laid asphalt often contains residual oils that make it slick until repeated use beds it in. Combined with launch devices that push riders into the braking zone at 15 to 20 km per hour faster than normal, the margin for error shrinks dramatically. Miller's frustration reflects a broader rider concern. Communication between organizers and teams about track changes must be transparent and timely to avoid surprises on race weekend. Miller's comments add weight to calls for a review of start device use, especially on circuits with narrow first corners or recent resurfacing. Removing or restricting devices would be a significant regulatory change, but proponents argue it would simplify starts and reduce first-lap incidents. Critics, however, warn that banning them could disadvantage manufacturers who have invested heavily in the technology and alter the competitive balance. The debate mirrors earlier controversies over winglets and ride height devices. Innovation drives performance but can also create unintended safety risks. Any rule change would require technical testing and consensus among teams, riders, and the FIM to avoid destabilizing the championship. Miller's stance echoes concerns voiced by other riders after similar first corner crashes in Barcelona and Mugello. Many believe the combination of aggressive electronics, resurfaced tracks, and increasingly tight layouts is pushing MotoGP starts into dangerous territory. Others argue that rider discipline, not technology, is the real issue. This split reflects a philosophical divide in MotoGP. Should the sport prioritize raw rider skill and natural control, or embrace technological aids that maximize performance but complicate safety management? The Balaton crash reopened a debate that has been simmering since earlier first corner incidents. Are electronic launch aids increasing risk at the start, especially on marginal surfaces? The next steps are likely to be technical briefings between riders, teams, and race direction, plus closer scrutiny of track preparation timelines. Expect the topic to resurface at Brno, where riders will again face demanding braking zones, and where officials may need to weigh whether procedural or regulatory adjustments are necessary. Miller's comments ensure that start devices will remain at the center of MotoGP's ongoing conversation about the balance between speed, safety, and technology. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!